contemplate the workings of the inner being. Your eyes are wide open, but are you really seeing? How is it already almost the end of May?
Doing it and doing it and doing it well. Doing it and doing it and doing it well.
I represent Queens. She was raised out in Brooklyn.
I represent Brooklyn. You was raised out in Salt Lake.
Oh, yeah, that too.
I'm saying no. Sexy time. Sexy time.
We're still continuing the conversation around
doing it.
Doing it. Or
My
not
name
doing it.
Is Ta.
My name is Cole.
We are Ta Cole. This is Mentor in the Mirror podcast.
And we got hit up a lot on Instagram with people with a lot of questions asking about everything from self-pleasure, practice, masturbation, / doing it, not doing it, and who they're doing it
Doing it with multiple people, all kinds of stuff, man. I mean, our ratings went up.
People want to hear more about sex.
People want to hear about sex.
So
I think we might have to change it to the Ta Cole Sexy in the Mirror podcast.
Babe.
Let's get it on.
So we broke down a little bit more into the story and some context and everything last week. And a lot of what people were looking to hear more about is how, what tools, what practices, what conversations have we had to shift from that kind of, just from where we were to where we are, good soul.
Yeah, well, the tools of that vibrating thing and the lubricant.
Oh, you bring the lubricant.
Did you bring the lubricant?
Jello pudding.
Harold, did you bring the lubricant? Lubricant, that word, man.
Yeah, it's not a...
It just doesn't sound fun.
No.
Can you get some lubricant, please? Lubricant.
So, just jumping back to what we talked about last week, right? So, through this evolutionary process, and I know I didn't get into a lot about some of the trauma and what had happened was for myself, because at this point in my life, honestly, it's not that it isn't important, it's just that narrative is no longer present for me. So it was shocking for me for it to show up in our sexuality the way that it did, because honestly, I had done a lot of work around it already. I felt fully expressed in my sexuality with you and before you, and felt really confident. And through this process, I think the biggest takeaway, the biggest gift actually came from, you remember when we went to Bolden Creek Coffee House in Austin with a bunch of our friends,
Yep.
Will, Ariana, Lee, right? So that night we were sitting around the table, and it's right after you had told and announced to the table that you were taking the keys to your sexuality back.
Took them back.
That you had taken them back.
Jingling the keys right now.
So that was me jangling them.
You can't jingle them because I have them.
Oh, right. That was me imagining you jingling them.
Right.
So the fascinating thing in that moment is that you also said to this table, I'm going to have sex 3 times a week. And this, you were making this proclamation. Mm-hmm. And immediately the table turned to me.
Yeah, and the discussion became about you.
Right. So let's share, I kind of shared the story a bit, but what was your perception and perspective of what happened in that moment around the table?
Right. So we're sitting there, and Lee Noto, who's amazing. She's an intimacy coach and
sensuality, intimacy, magic.
And she's gorgeous, my goodness.
Inside out, sideways, backwards.
So yummy, such yumminess. Speaking of sex. So she's like, what's up with Utah? And I'm like, well, lots of wonderful shit's going on with me. I'm moving into a place where I'm having sex 3 times a week. And she's like, all right, y'all, this is great. So when did y'all come to this situation?
So what is that going to look like for you?
What is that going to look like for y'all? And I was like, no, it's not for y'all. It's for me. And then there was this whole freeze, and her eyebrows went up, and the whole table looked to the side like, what? And I was like, yeah, this is about me having sex 3 times a week, not Cole. And then everybody looked at you. Mm-hmm. Looked at Cole like you ain't here. Looked at you and was like, well, what do you think it is? And Well,
what they said is then the conversation turned to, Oh, Cole, what support do you need
Yeah.
to meet that 3 times a week? And as we got in the car ride and on the way home, I had a huge realization for myself and for just through humanity that your sexuality, first of all, has to be met by me. And if that's not where I am, there must be something wrong with me. And so what can we do to fix it?
Right. I mean, that's what the whole conversation was. Oh my gosh, if he's going to be having sex outside of the situation, then there must be something wrong with you.
Or
And
the fact that if I didn't want, even if it was just I didn't want to have sex 3 times a week, that it must be something, a block, a trauma, or whatever that was preventing me from having sex 3 times a week, which is not the case.
no, it's not the case at all. And this is the thing with these constructs around marriage, constructs around relationship, and how society determines your relationship is. People are basing their basing our lives on their assumptions, and it's not a consideration space. And this is the thing that we've moved into, is a space of consideration. We consider all things a possibility, and are not in a space of certainty with anything or anyone. Not
Or
even
at least we consider as many as we can conceive and imagine.
at the moment.
Correct,
and
totally.
open yourself up to it. But people are programmed into this space, or a lot of people are programmed into this space where they believe that relationships are supposed to be a certain way, and they can only be a certain way, so that there must be something wrong if it's contrary to what they know. And so there was a huge expanse for people at that table, because they see our relationship as being awesome, and it is awesome. Our relationship
Stupendous.
is wonderful and it's miraculous, and it doesn't mean we're on the same page with everything or anything at all. And we choose to live with each other, we choose to be with each other, we choose to have the things that we have from a space of ease, and because that's where we want to be.
And radical honesty. I mean, that is something that we have really been astute about, and shifting back into alignment if there was ever misalignments, or just things that kind of got a little bit off track. And I think that was something from the gate that I honored about our relationship, was neither one of us has governance over the other person. And that was the case before we were married, after we were married, and whatever iteration is beyond this. The idea that, I talked about it on the last episode, but the pressure I had put on myself to fulfill your sexual needs was making it more challenging for me to access them, because of the pressure I was putting on myself and that I was perceiving to meet your energy. And when our friend Leaf was here visiting a few weeks ago, you were in the back doing 100 burpees a day in our fitness challenge, our movement practice we have on Facebook. And I look at him and I just kept laughing, because you're doing, power jumps and, all these crazy moves. And I look at him and I go, I'm one woman, Leaf. I'm but one woman, because your energy is boundless and endless, and in all capacities. And I mean that in the sexual capacities, in how you show up with our clients, our friends, the people that are in our life. And it was that realization that I kept feeling not like I wasn't enough, because I'm so attracted to you and so drawn to you. So it wasn't a question of that. It was just like a pressure, like I need to make sure that I can meet you there to fulfill your needs. And then it comes down to that. Then what does that mean about mine?
Yeah. And that's your shit.
Right.
And then on my end, I had a lot of pressure on me to hold back and wait for you to be ready to be there for my fulfillment, so that we could fulfill each other. Because I'm like, all right, well, I only want this sex situation if it's mutual. So I'll wait. So I kept pushing back. So the only person that I had to face in the mirror was myself. And so when I'm looking in the mirror and seeing that my sexuality is not fulfilled, my sexual drive, my sexual desires are not being fulfilled, there's only one person who's responsible for my sexuality, and that's me. And I don't care what any religious situation or government situation or familial situation says are the rules for my body and my sexuality. I am the person who is in charge of that. And so if I give my sexuality over to you and you're not on the same page, I'm looking for a recipe of a lifetime full of lack of fulfillment or not being fulfilled. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
A place of not being fulfilled. So, being able to take the keys back and just say, this is, I'm going to take control of my sexuality. It's the same thing with like taking control of my business or taking control of whatever.
Your fitness, your health.
Fitness, my health, the way I eat. Oh, Cole doesn't buy spinach, so I'm not going to eat green leafies until Cole buys spinach. Why? I can go to the store and get some spinach, man. Why do I need to wait? It's the same thing with my sexuality. And to be able to speak about it, to be able to be in a relationship with a person that I can speak this out loud to is a game changer for me. And this is something that a lot of people tell me they're inspired by our relationship every time they see us, because there's something else that we've expanded into. And this is a place that I think is a wonderful place for people to explore. If you're into honesty, and if you're into being yourself, and you're into having your partner be fulfilled, or the person, whatever you want to call them, partner, person you live with, cohabitate with, wife, husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, fiance, whatever. If you really want that person to be, if I can't say you who's listening, I can say for me, if I want you to be fulfilled, Cole, I want you to have whatever it is that you want. And that's sex with whoever you want, however you want. Even if it's not with me, to be in love with whoever you want, however you want. Even if it's not with me, to live wherever you want, to have the things you want. Even if it's not with me, I want those things for you deeply. And if I don't want to be around you in that stuff, I can opt to leave.
I think that's one of the biggest things that I've seen differentiate us from a lot of people, is that from the gate, neither one of us had jealous issues, tendencies, or otherwise. Like I wouldn't get jealous seeing you when I would go see you spin, when you would at a Brooklyn stable, you and ill-spoken Corey James. I could sit and watch you dance with other women, all this. That was never a problem for me. And so even through this exploration of our relationship and this co-creation, what it came down to was that my love for you is so deep that, like you were just saying, it doesn't have to do with you being with me. It's not contingent on it. It's not quantified by it. It's not proof. It's not, like none of that has anything to do with my love for you.
No.
And if you came to me tomorrow and said, I met someone, that's the direction I want to go. I'm really excited. They're amazing, whatever. I would give you a hug. I would tell you how grateful I am that you can tell me. I would, talk about the hope we would still stay in each other's lives on whatever capacity that is. And I would wish you all the best, because your happiness, your fulfillment, your excitement lights me up.
And it's very mutual.
I know it is.
It's a very mutual situation. And that's not to say that all my old shit around relationships and marriage doesn't come up. And if I tell Cole this, if I tell Cole about, how I feel sexually, or if I'm attracted to somebody else, maybe she'll leave. All those old fears and those old ideas still come up. So, recently I had been involved with exploring something outside of our situation. And, things got a little wonky for me. And you supported me a lot. And I was able to come to you with fear spaces that I never would have imagined being able to tell you without you leaving. Because I've had people in the past tell me that they were good with who I am completely. And the one thing, bar none, that whenever I brought it up, it was my sexuality. And I was always abandoned. I was always left. I was always punished. And this is something that I had been waiting for. I'd been waiting for you to say that, yeah, you're down with me, taking the keys back to my sexuality and then leaving. And it was fear that like rocked me to the core, to my soul. And, we had talked about this in the previous episodes. We had talked about me having to have some friends come over and hold space for me, because I was so afraid that my whole body was in a space that I couldn't even function. So, unraveling that part of my sexuality was so important, I appreciate you greatly for honoring our friendship, before anything. And this is one of the things that I see with many of the people that we work with, is that people have these relationships, they have these marriages, and they don't have a deep set friendship or an understanding or desire to really understand the other person. And this sex is something that is a requirement. It is a factor in the nuptial agreement, and it's something that's owed, it's something that's owned, and it's something that now becomes the property of the other person. And I don't see that with our situation. I see that I am sovereign over myself. And as we move forward in our world and on our planet, and we talk about sovereignty, where does the sovereignty of our sexuality lie? And I believe that it lies with the individual, whether we claim it or not. We are still giving it away to someone else or rendering it to someone else. And that is a place for me of great power. Sex is the place where we as human beings create other human beings. And it is the most creative force, I believe, in the universe, for us as humans, to be able to create another human life, to conjoin together, to create a human life. And now many people may have stuff to say about, well, what about homosexual couples or same-sex marriages or same-sex whatever? It doesn't make a difference if people are procreating. It's the energy of sexuality that is the most creative force. And I think that to be able to have sovereignty over your sexuality is very, very important. And I'm so ridiculously honored and grateful to have a partner like you in my life, where I can be sovereign over my sexuality and have that welcomed, and to be in the same space where I volley that. I am all about your sovereignty and you having whatever it is that you need in your life, and I'm not just messing with you with your tie up stuff. It was a little bit of a joke, just to bring that in, but I really appreciate the ability to have that sovereignty over my sexuality, whether I act on it or not. I appreciate you having the ability to be sovereign over your sexuality, whether you explore it or not. That's not my business. My business is, as far as I'm concerned, to honor our friendship, to honor our relationship, to honor our partnership, to honor our business together, to honor our love together, to honor your body, to honor my body, and to honor our truth together as we look to move forward on this planet. We are doing things with people that are epic. We are showing people what epic looks like by being epic in our relationship. And I think that being able to be epic in our sexuality is a huge part of that, and I'm grateful.
I think there's a big misconception that freedom, because we always talk about be free, that freedom is free or unattached. It's the freedom in knowing what you're choosing to participate in is your choice. Regardless of what the consequences are, you are choosing them. And I think that sexuality is a big one of those, because ultimately it isn't about being free to just go have sex with whoever, whatever, whenever. It's the freedom of conversation. It's the freedom to express, to imagine, to explore that doesn't take the action. I've realized that the more open I've become with you and having these conversations around sexuality, the desire to go anywhere else actually fades. And it's because I have never given myself or had permission externally to express myself, to even just verbalize what I might be thinking or what I'm considering. And some of the conversations I've been able to have as a result of this, just everything around sexuality, is what has been freeing for me. And, so if you're listening right now, where does your idea of sex come from? When you reflect on your parents and your childhood environment, what preconceived or conditioned ideas are still existing within you? And is that what you believe? Who told you that? We say this all the time to clients and online. Who told you that? And if you are feeling like you're not fulfilled in your relationship sexually, or your partner is feeling like they aren't fulfilled sexually, how brave are you to have the conversation? That doesn't mean that just because someone is unfulfilled that they should be going somewhere else. It's having these deep, vulnerable conversations, because sexual energy, when you're in your head and you're worried and you're feeling all that pressure in your body, it's going to shut that sexual energy off. That fight or flight response directly impacts your sexual energy and your ability to connect intimately with a partner and with yourself for that matter. So stand in front of that mirror. What is your current sex life? Are you having one? Are you having the kind of sex that you want to have? Are you having sex with who you want to have sex with? These are the questions to first find out for yourself, so that you can then in turn talk to your partner or partners, or if you're looking to craft and create a new relationship, the clearer you are in understanding who you are and what you want, and really practicing that vulnerability, the more you will actualize it in real time. So, if you loved this episode, share it with a friend. We love when you leave reviews. We've got some guests we're going to have coming up on the show, and we're going to keep bringing sex back around and some of the tools I used in somatic awareness, TRE. The list goes on, and we can kind of dive into them individually, because I think they're all powerful in very powerful ways. I made something called the Women's Womb Healing Summit that I just give access when people want it now. I did it 2 years ago. It was a life-changing program it's geared towards women, just because the verbiage, the language, and the doctors that are involved. So even if you have a uterus and you don't identify as a woman, you could get a lot of value from it. Just know that there is language that could be challenging, in particular if you have shifted away from that gender identity. So, as always, we love you so deeply, so endlessly. So, if you loved it, leave us a review. Rate, review, subscribe, share it with a friend. And until next time, my name is Cole.
My name is Ty.
Be free.